Hey y'all, do you have one of these? It's a little bitty. I'm going to turn the fire off and turn it back on again just for a second. Right under that. It's tiny. It's a little bitty, 3-inch, 4-inch piece of Lodge cast iron. Perfect for melting butter. And the butter is melted. Turn it off and I'm going to pour it on my sweet potatoes. Doing just some candied sweet potatoes tonight for dinner. All I did, I'll come over here. It's kind of a mess over there. Maybe bring it over here. Here's my sweet potatoes. All it is just a can of canned sweet potatoes, some that I canned last year. A jar, white jar of canned sweet potatoes. I rinsed them off. I poured out the water, rinsed them off, poured them into a buttered, this is just a little buttered dish. Sprinkled some cinnamon on it. Just put a little bit of brown sugar on it. My fingers. Now I've got this and I'm just going to just drizzle that over the top. As you can see, I could have clarified that butter and made ghee. Probably would be a good container to make ghee. All ghee is clarified butter. Here this is, my oven is pre-lit. Just take this in here and put it in the oven, half hour or so until it bubbles real good, and it's done. I am doing home-style country green beans. Just going to take a few minutes. These green beans were canned from my garden last year sometime. I've heated the fire under my skillet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to saute these onions, and then I will add the green beans to them and finish seasoning it. Right now the pan's getting hot. I've got just a little bit of bacon grease. I don't eat a whole lot of bacon. Love it, but I really don't eat very much of it. So that's all the bacon grease I've got. So it's going to take 2 hands to scrape this out. So let me put this down. So if a recipe calls for just a small amount of bacon grease, that's it. That's not very much at all. So let me put the onions in here. My favorite thing to stir things with, I have a wooden spoon, but I like this wooden spatula better. It scrapes the bottom of the pan, and you see like that? It scrapes the bottom of the pan better than a spoon. So I prefer cooking with the spatula. Now yes, I do cook with the wooden spoon some. I cook more with the spatula. So all I'm going to do is just stir these around and let these, turn the fire down on them a little bit and just let them saute for a few minutes until they soften. So they generally, I think what my mother used to say, until they turn translucent. I think she might have said clear, but you know what it is. It's just until they're done, but not brown. You turn the fire down. I look at the fire until it's, there we go. If you notice, all the markings have come off. There's a little dot right there above my knobs. My knobs need to be cleaned too. I'll do that one day. But there are no markings on or very few markings. You see over here. There are, what is it, high? Let me turn that up. Well, it says high, and then turn that up to light, and that doesn't work. Yes, it does. So I just got that high point right there. But since none of the medium or the simmer or any of that, those buttons, those marks have gone. So I just watch the fire and just turn it down until it's very low like that. Just barely on. this will just simmer for a little bit. Stir it every now and then. Let that sit a little bit and I'll be right back with you. Alright, just in the time it took me to arrange some of the other ingredients, get the salt and pepper out of the cabinet. These are just barely starting to brown on the bottom. The idea was not to brown these completely, just to turn them, to soften them. I think they're right about at the stage that I want them. They're not going to be crunchy when you bite into them, and they're not going to be crunchy when you bite into them anyway because I'm going to be cooking them in my green beans. So what I had was a very small onion, about the size of a golf ball. I had gotten the package of 2.5 pounds of onions, and it was mostly little ones this time. So the next thing I'm going to do, I rinsed my green beans, and I'm just going to pour this in here. Well, I think, there we go, there they go. I may need a little bit more water. I want to cover these with water. It's not quite enough water. So I have another jar of water right here. About like so. So there's actually, if you push them down into the water, there may be about a 1/2 inch of water, if that. Probably not even a 1/2 inch of water covering that. So the next thing, salt and pepper. Got about a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Sprinkle that in there. And this pepper is my store brand. It says fine ground black pepper. It's not fine ground. Look how coarse ground that is. You can see it when I sprinkle it in there, how coarse it is. See that? So just a sprinkle of pepper, not a lot of pepper. And a spoonful of sugar. What Mary Poppins said. So let me get, so there's just a spoonful of sugar. Right in there. Just stir it up and let it cook. So just stir it up and let it cook. I need to turn the fire up just a little bit to get it to come to a simmer, and then I'm going to turn it right back down again after it comes to a simmer. So here we go. Let's look at the fire, and I'm just going to turn up the heat. Nice to have a gas stove. I'll turn it to about there. If you look at here on my mark, you can't see it, but right over here is the high. So that would be about medium. I don't even know the brand of the stove. I cannot find the name of the brand of what stove brand this is. To order new, I'd like to order new knobs for it, but I don't know what brand it is. So I just do it by eye, and you can too if you have to. Say, well, this is not as high is. Turn it all the way on, and there's high. And you turn it almost off, and that's simmer, or as low as you can get it, and somewhere in between is medium, and that works. So I'm going to let this come back to a simmer, and I will stir it a little bit more, and then I'm going to turn it down. I will turn the fire down. I'll show you that, and then I'm going to leave it for a half hour, maybe, I don't know how long, until most of the water cooks down. That's it. I can't say how long to cook it. It depends on how high your heat is. How long is it going to take to cook the water down? How much water did you put in it? All of these variables matter when it comes to cooking these. You just have to watch them. And that's what I'm going to do. So I will be right back with you. Hey, look. See, these are starting to boil. That's exactly what I want. I'll take these and stir them around a little bit. Now I will be able to control how much they're bubbling when they're cooking. Now, if these were were fresh green beans instead of these canned green beans, I basically do them the same way. Except at this point, what I would do is I would turn down the heat, and I would take my lid, and not put it on all the way, but just take it off and just crack it just a little bit. Just crack it just a little bit to let some of the steam out. And let it cook until the beans were tender. And then when the beans were tender, I would take off the lid and do what I'm doing right now. So let's pretend we've cooked these from fresh beans. They're at the tender stage. So now I've taken off the lid. They're simmering real good. I'm just going to turn down the heat. Again, let's look at the heat. And turn it down to about, not quite as low as I had it before. About like that. Let's see what happens. Still simmering pretty good. That's simmering more than I want them to simmer. I'll turn down the heat some more. Let's see what I'm doing. Well, you can't see what I'm doing. Here we go. Just turn down the heat about as low as you can get it without it going out. And just let them barely simmer. Now I'm going to leave them like this with the top off. Stir them. The onions have all come to the top. And onions on the surface. And they'll do that. Just stir them back in. Okay. There we are. So now that I've stirred that, you can just barely see it's simmering a little bit, not much. But I don't want these to cook down too fast. So I'm just going to let them a very, very slow simmer, and they'll cook down in a little bit. I'll be back and check on them. I thought I was making a video. I've been sitting here stirring this gravy, or stirring the flour and the chicken. I used chicken grease, chicken fat. I had baked a chicken, so there's my container with my chicken, from the baked chicken, the chicken drippings and fat that's on the top of it. And in this jar right here is chicken broth that I got from boiling the chicken the other day. So I put approximately 2 tablespoons of fat. And then I added about approximately 2 tablespoons of flour. In other words, you want to do equal amounts of fat and flour, and those amounts can be anything from 1 tablespoon and 1 tablespoon up to a cup and a cup. You just want to be sure that you have equal volumes of your flour and your fat. So I'm stirring this almost constantly. This is not quite brown enough. You want to cook this at least 2 minutes at the very minimum. So you want to cook this at least 2 minutes at a minimum. And while I'm doing this, I look back here. I just turn these back up again because I had turned them off because they were done. And I thought I was recording it, and I wasn't, so I just turned them back on so you could see how much liquid is left in the bottom. So there's still liquid left in the bottom of these beans. You see that? It has not boiled dry. Can you see the difference in the texture of the beans? It's got onion and a tiny bit of sugar, some salt and pepper. And it's cooked down. All the liquid that I put in there is cooked down to below the level of the beans with still some liquid in there. And those are done. So I'm going to turn those off. So while I've been doing that, I'm ignoring this. Continue to stir. Stir it around the edges. I was talking about the spatula too. But for years and years, my mother taught me to make gravy, and she always used a spoon. And she didn't use a wooden spoon either. She just used a spoon. And she taught me how to make gravy, and that's, like I said before, it's equal volumes of fat and flour. And then you add, she didn't measure how much water she put in it. I didn't know to do like for, say, 2 tablespoons of fat and 2 tablespoons of flour. I believe it's a cup of liquid, but I'm not positive. You have to look that up. If I'll look it up and I'll put it on the screen when I publish this video. But what she would do is she'd basically use water. She used fat and flour and water. If she was doing beef gravy, she would, there was a dish that she did frequently, that she did round steak, and then it was basically smothered round steak with mushrooms. It was really good. I'll do that recipe sometime. That's one of my mother's favorites. That was my son's very, very, very favorite recipe. So I will do that for y'all one day. It's easy. It's fun. Just put it in the fry the meat, make a gravy, put the meat back in the gravy, and bake it. There's not much more to it than that. But in this case, what I'm doing is I'm making chicken gravy because I still have a good bit of chicken breast left from the chicken that I baked. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make this gravy, and then I'm going to slice the chicken breast, and I'm going to put it in the gravy. And then I'll just heat it up and then have gravy over the chicken. I don't have any biscuits, I don't have any cornbread, I don't have mashed potatoes. It's just basically going to be chicken and gravy. I don't even have a piece of bread. I do have some tortillas. There's some tortillas right there. Probably not going to use tortilla. Though I could, it would be good. But this just isn't cooking very much. Let me check the fire, be sure the fire didn't go out. Nope, the fire didn't go out, but maybe I need to turn it up just a little bit. There we go. This is taking too long to cook. This is cooking more like a roux. You know how if you've ever made Cajun food where you have to cook a roux, it just cooks forever and ever and ever. And in that case, you do keep the fire down that low. For gravy, it doesn't need to be quite that low. So this should cook a little bit faster now. I'll come back to this when it's brown enough and show you what I do. Because I'm going to make this like my mother did. I'm not measuring the liquid. I will be back with you in just a little while. Yeah, I want you to see this in here. Get it really close down in here. Can you see how the gravy is starting to look a little toasty? The specks in it are starting to brown. It's getting there. It's almost as brown as I want it. While I'm doing this, I want to show you my stove. I'm serious stove cleaning after I cook tonight. You see all the spatters all over my stove? That was because when I added the fat to my skillet, there was still some broth on the bottom of it. And so all the water spattered everywhere. All the way over here. All the way over here on top of this lid. And on my tea kettle. From here on this burner, all the way over to that burner. So here we go. Let's look at the gravy again. I don't want it to burn. It's as brown as I want it. That's just as brown as I want it. Now let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this. I'm just going to pour it. I don't know how much of it's going to take. It may take more than that. That is it's about a cup. Almost half of that pint jar. So it's and just stir it, and it'll all come back together in just a second. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. Actually, not a little bit. I'm going to turn it up to high. All the way up to high. You see the gravy boiling. It's not really gravy yet. It's got to cook down. What's going to happen is the flour in there is going to thicken this. You may have made gravy with cornstarch, and that works too. And my mom taught me to make gravy with flour. And if this is too thick, then I'll add a little more broth. If it's not thick enough, then I'll just let it cook down a little bit. It's that easy. If you've never made gravy before, it's that easy. And look at this. This is getting a little bit thicker than I want it. See it's starting to come together? I'm going to add a little bit more broth. So I'm at right at a cup. Here's the measurements on there. If I added too much, like I say, that's going to be good. Still, it's a little thin. Still a little bit thin. Yeah, I might add just a little bit too much broth. Just going to let it cook down for a little bit. I'll be right back with you. I'm going to show you, this is the breast that I have left. Breast meat. This is about half of one breast. So I'm going to slice this and put this in the gravy. And let's see, you don't need to watch me slice it. You know what that looks like. So I'm going to slice up that meat, and when the gravy is as thick as I want it, then I'm going to put that in there and just basically let this warm up. I'll be right back with you. So there we are. This chicken is sliced in about half-inch thick pieces, just rounds across that. Now the gravy, I turned it off because it got as thick as I wanted it for the meantime. Turn it back on. Turn the fire back down. I'm just gonna dump these. Let's do it. Be that careful. Just dump this in the gravy. Wouldn't this be delicious over rice or noodles? Mashed potatoes. But I'm not having any of those. I'm trying. Here I say that I'm trying to lose weight and I eat gravy. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm not eating bread. I'm not eating white potatoes. I do have some sweet potatoes. They're in the oven and they're finished. So as soon as this bubbles up again and it looks like everything is hot, then I will put this on my plate. I'll plate it up and I will let you see what my dinner looks like. Just let it heat up a little bit. Because that meat was cold out of the refrigerator. I will be back with you. A little bit of salt and pepper. Don't know how much that was. Less than half a teaspoon. Quarter of a teaspoon of that. And just sprinkle this. These are great big holes in this, so I have to be careful when I'm sprinkling this out. Just tap, tap, tap. Or I'll get too much in it. Whoops, like that. I think that's going to be enough for the whole thing. I'll stir that in and it'll be fine. I forgot to show you that I added a little bit of the stock, the really condensed stock from, it's not even stock, drippings. I guess it's more of the drippings from my baked chicken. You know, the drippings that are at the bottom of the pan when you bake a chicken that are not the fat, but they're the good juices. I put about a tablespoon of that in here. And it increases the flavor of it. If you've got it, add it. And the gravy is a little bit thin. I'm going to cook this, since I added that, it thinned it out just a little. So I'm just going to cook it a little bit more. Let it get back to the consistency that I want it. And then I will come back with you again. Now, this looks like it's ready. When you're my age, you know, you cook that many years, you can tell by the way this is bubbling. It just looks right. Right being relative, might not be right to you. That's the consistency that I want it to be. The gravy is still relatively thin. Let's see. It's not so thick that it's like glue. But it's not really runny. I mean, it's just the right consistency. This is what you want your gravy to look like. So there, that is done. I'm going to turn those off. And I'm going to plate up my green beans and sweet potatoes first. And then I'll add this because this gravy is going to run everywhere. So let me get a spoonful. Just a little more than that. That's not enough. I want more than that. Okay, 2 spoonfuls like that. That's about as much as I want. That's good. And there'll be left over for another couple of meals. So that'll be good. And this is almost like candy. These are just really candied sweet potatoes. Push that over to the side. So I don't need a whole lot of that. That's more than enough right there. I'm probably going to want more, but I'm going to have to not let myself get more. I'll turn this around. And I think what I need a different kind of a spoon to you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use the same spoon here. It still has some sweet potato on the bottom of it. That's okay. Use that to scoop this up. This is going to be enough for 2 meals. See this? I might do it tomorrow night or for lunch tomorrow on cornbread. And there we go. There's my dinner. Isn't that pretty? It's nice. And I don't have mashed potatoes, and it would be really, really good with mashed potatoes. But I just didn't want more starch. I mean, these sweet potatoes are going to be sweet enough and enough calories that I didn't need the extra starch from the mashed potatoes. And here is a good traditional Southern meal. Night, y'all. Good eating, or bon appetit, as Julia Child would say.